what did Miss Swan used to say? A something in the bush boy.
Little
Yeah,
monkey in the
a
bush.
monkey in the bush boy. That's it. Yeah, yeah. Hit that. One of those. What's up, everybody? You've tuned in to Just Drawz, the podcast that explores hot topics and various experiences among same-gender loving Black men. In each episode, we offer raw, vulnerable, and stripped-down perspectives to give voice to our frequently overlooked population. Here, we don't just scratch the surface, we dive deep, peeling back the layers of our experiences as well as heteronormative stereotypes. Let's get into this week's episode.
What's up, family? Welcome to Just Drawz, the podcast where we keep it vulnerable,
Raw, stripped down,
and authentically just us. I am Jeff.
And I'm your boy Darius, aka DMC.
So grab a drink
Or keep your hands on the wheel.
readjust your support,
And let's get into it.
and let's get into it. All right. So, family, tonight, this episode, we are coming from the men's locker room of LA Fitness Atlantic Station.
Yeah, I've been there before, so I finally know a place where we are.
Awesome.
Keep your towel up. Keep
Some
your
of
towel
those,
up.
well, some of those fictional places I'm glad you haven't been to.
Yeah. Well, and some of them aren't fictional, and I might be glad that I haven't been to those either.
That's true. All right. So tonight, our conversation is going to be about performative masculinity in the Black gay community. So what is that? So performative masculinity is when someone acts more masculine, not because it feels natural, but because they feel pressured to do so. So Judith Butler, she's a philosopher and a gender studies scholar. So she developed this theory in 1988, and she has this thesis. It was called Performative Acts and Gender Constitution. And this challenges the idea that gender is an innate biological trait. So Butler argues that gender is a socially constructed performance created through repeated behaviors, expressions, and societal expectations. So in other words, people are not born with a fixed gender identity. They learn and continuously perform their gender based on cultural norms. Now, this performance is not necessarily a conscious one. It's enforced by society and repeated so often that it appears natural. Key distinction in her theory is between performance and performativity. Performance is a deliberate act like a drag show where someone consciously presents gender in a theatrical way. Performativity, on the other hand, refers to the way gender is subconsciously created over time through repeated social behaviors. For example, like when a boy is told to man up or a woman is expected to be nurturing, these actions reinforce the illusion that masculinity and femininity are stable, natural categories. So
Great information there.
yes, because you got to get a little bit of background.
Familiar. Yeah, very familiar with Judith Butler. Yeah.
Awesome, because you are a scholar, so.
A little bit.
Yep. Yes. Poquito. All right, so what does performative masculinity look like, and how does that show up in everyday life? So, lowering your voice around other men, avoiding certain clothes or colors or accessories that, even if they are for men, you're kind of like, oh, I don't want to wear this pink shirt. I don't want to wear this dangly earring. Some men don't want to eat ice cream cones in front of other men in public or bananas. I know a lot of people don't like fruity drinks when they go out to the club. And a lot of guys, the club, a lot of guys like to, use bro and man a lot when they talk. And when they take photos, they want to look more tough. They want to look more menacing. They want to not smile. They want to like man up in their photos. They want to always look like they're that dude. So there's no questioning what type of man they are. They always want to have that masculine field up, so to speak. One of those things with that is that I know that for me, I don't have a problem with wearing things like pink. I don't have a problem with ordering a fruity drink. That's not a problem that I have. I don't like dangly earrings myself, but it's okay. I know that's a thing for some people. It's just not for me. But there have been experiences that I've had where I felt like I did need to kind of man up or kind of like be a little bit more masculine presenting, just because I felt like it was a way for me to not necessarily hide my sexuality, but more so to read the room or know the environment that I was going in, where I didn't want to appear like I was a threat to the other guys. So I use the men's room as an example because, that's a way, locker room is where you've got men in various stages of undress. A lot of men are not comfortable in that environment. So any type of lingering look, anything that lasts a little bit too long, could always seem as a bit more suspect. So I kind of like made sure that early on, I would just kind of go in like with blinders and just kind of like, I'm only in my world. I'm only in my box. I'm not trying to look at you, dude, even though I may catch a glance, but not in like a creepy way or anything like that. I'm not trying to stare and oogle at anyone. I just want to make sure that I'm not going to be the one that is like, oh, I'm really staring at this guy or anything like that. I don't want there to be any type of, or didn't want there to be any type of confusion on my part that I was a threat to these guys.
So you don't want to oogle, or do you want to you don't want to ogle?
Ogle. So yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that because I was just about to ask you, like, in what ways, in what specific spaces did you feel like you needed to man up? But you definitely gave the examples there. I wouldn't have equated that with necessarily manning up, like just kind of not looking. I understand what you mean about the not staring too long, especially if you don't have an inkling or an inclination that the person that you might be trying to catch a glance at might be trying to catch a glance at you. I can understand that. But or if someone's gaydar is broken, which mine kind of is, because sometimes I can't tell. Yeah, I'm just broke. Completely. Because I'm
take it back to the store.
Right, because I had to ask you. Yeah, exactly, I do. And AliExpress. And so I usually have to ask you sometimes, and I'm like, that one right there, and you're like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, perfect. Unless it's overt, unless it's like really out there in your face, and then it's completely different. I don't know that I've had to, or I've felt the need to man up like that in those ways. Now, normally what has happened for me though is I feel like there are certain things that I do because I don't like how they look on me or how I feel. Like, for example, when you mentioned some of the things that you mentioned earlier, like lowering my voice, I don't necessarily do that because my voice is decently deep as it is. There are times though where if I might be a little bit more excited, then my voice may go up a little bit, but everybody does that. As far as wearing certain clothes or colors, I used to wear a lot more colorful stuff. Now I'm relegated to a lot more darker colors because I feel like they look better on me. But I don't really have a problem wearing pink. I don't have a problem wearing, like your favorite color is yellow. Yeah, right, lavender. Right. Yeah. I mean, my dad definitely is like the blueprint for wearing every color in the rainbow. And I clown him sometimes because my dad's a pastor and he'll wear lavender and red and peach and cerulean, and it'd be that from head to toe. And I'm going
chartreuse.
Chartreuse, yes. And I'm like, where are you going? And where have you been all day? And so he knows that I'm gonna clown him. I'm still his baby. He still calls me baby, so he just takes it. But I don't have a problem with that, but I just don't like the way it looks, necessarily on me per se. So I don't do that. But smiling in photos, that's an interesting one that you brought up, because I don't particularly like my smile, even though people are like, oh my God, you have a beautiful smile. I hate it. I hate my smile. I hate the way I look when I smile sometimes. And so when I'm taking pictures, a lot of times I won't smile because I'm like, I feel like I look like Chester the cheetah.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, and I don't like the way that looks, but you know, that is what it is. But I don't feel like I've had to necessarily man up in those ways. But I know people who have. I definitely know people who have done that. I've been around people who have done that.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot on guys' profile photos across the apps, or even not necessarily dating apps, just social media in general. A lot of guys will try to look real hard. I'm not really a smiler. I never really was. I started to take my cues from, of all people, Posh Spice, because when she came out with the Spice Girls, or as a member, I realized that she never smiled on her photos. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to try that.
I want to be
And
posh.
I started doing that. Didn't want to necessarily be posh. I just like that look. I was just like, oh, well, you can take a photo. It'll look nice. It doesn't have to be like all cheesed up. And so that's pretty much how I've always been. I rarely smile in photos. And so I've been like that ever since undergrad, well, around that time when they would have came out. So yeah, I took my cue from her.
hmm I've been told I have a nice smolder when I take pictures. So I usually dim my eyes, and I try to stand a certain way. So if I'm taking a face shot, it's very it's what they call the hunter look when you are taking pictures. So I tend to do that a lot more, just because I think it looks better. But some people are like, no, you should smile more. It looks great. But maybe down the
Yeah.
road we'll see
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you do have a good smile. So, of
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that, and you do as well.
course.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know. Oh, let's
thanks.
man up, man up, man up, man up.
Yes, let's man
All
up. I'm
right.
sorry, Brand. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, bro.
yeah. I'm sorry, bro. Yeah, I ain't mean
My
that. I
bad,
ain't
my
mean
bad.
that,
No
dude.
homo.
Dude, I ain't mean that. Right.
Yeah, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. So where does this pressure come from? So a lot of us growing up, I know on our previous episode, when we had DeMarco on and he was talking about, shut up before I give you something to cry about. We hear that all the time. Like, boys don't cry, men don't cry. We're not allowed to express ourselves. And we see the hyper masculine imagery, especially, those of us that, came up in the late 80s and 90s, with hip hop culture and gangster rap and all of that, and how
And black
those
on black
men
crime.
presented,
Yep.
yeah, all of that. And even with barbershop culture, which I don't go to the barbershop anymore, but I would remember being a kid and just kind of listening in on some of the things that they said. That was a very sacred, masculine space. So was there any time when you were growing up, outside of what we just mentioned with the hip hop, where you felt that there was any pressure to like conform to a certain level of masculinity?
I think that when you have friends that tend to be a little bit more hyper masculine because they were pressured or pushed to be hyper masculine, it's the when in Rome, do as the Romans kind of thing. So you conform, but it's an unintentional confirmation. It's okay, I'm going to this is how the people are acting around me, so I'm going to just kind of act like them, because I don't necessarily want to stand out. Or if I'm going to stand out, I want to stand out for something positive. Like, okay, he's the smart one, or he's the fashionable one, or he's whatever, but that's still my dude, that's still that guy. So I don't know that I felt necessarily pressure per se, but I just felt that urge to not stand out. I'm not the person. I'm a background kind of guy. I'm a singing in the background kind of dude. I'm a
Singing in the
behind the scene
background.
Yeah, so I'm that kind of guy that's in the back, that I'm like, okay, I don't want to draw attention to myself, even though when I come into a room, sometimes I do draw attention unintentionally, because I'm tall, because I'm dark skinned, because maybe there's some sort of air or presence or something that I bring into a room, but I don't work at that, But like I said, I think for me, it was more so just, how can I still continue to be not noticed, or continue to be not in the forefront, of everything. What about you?
So you were trying to just kind of be under the radar, pretty much.
Yeah, I was trying to blend in the background. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, I was trying to blend in the background, or blend into the background, so that there weren't other things that were called, the other my flaws or anything else weren't like on display. So I think that was what it was. It was more survival in that respect. Did you have anything like that?
Not really. And I think that's because even though I have a brother and a sister, because there's such a large difference in our ages, I just kind of felt like I grew up as an only child. So I kind of always like did my own thing. Even though technically I'm the baby of the family. So I just kind of formed my own path. Never really felt like I had to fit in with the boys growing up, but I did like to, hang out with guys more so than girls. But for me, girls were really easy to talk to. Like, I didn't have a problem having a conversation with them or anything like that. But I never felt like I had to go through any type of extra hoop or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't play sports or anything. I just was always my own thing. And I think because I was a geek growing up, I just kind of was like put in that category where girls really didn't like really bother me, like, or anything like that. I mean, it wasn't until like later, when people would just kind of tease anyone. Everyone was called a fag and this, like, and that, and the other, pretty much at some point. But I mean, I got that a couple of times, but I didn't feel like it was anything that I felt like, oh, I got to run out and try to get on this track team or this basketball team or this football team. I was like, okay, and went on about my business. So
were you told, do you feel like, well, growing up with a brother and a sister in the house, and you grew up around your dad for a little while, right? Before he passed?
Only for a little bit.
Okay.
Only for a little bit.
So having another male energy in the house, did you look to your older brother, as like the model to follow of how to be masculine, or how to be, quote, more manly?
I did not, because there's 11 years of difference between the two of us. And so, by the time I came along, that dude was halfway out of the house. So it really wasn't, we didn't really hang out like that. So he was not my model for masculinity, so to speak. However, I knew he was very masculine. He was a guy's guy. Growing up, he had the muscles. He played football, like he had a lot going on, but I never felt like I was trying to be just like my older brother at any time. We're completely different people. He's more extroverted. He's a fraternity boy. He's got all that going on. And I'm none of those things. What I got over him is I'm taller. That's what I got. But
wait, he's shorter than you, like, even like now he's shorter than you too?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Because you're not short, but
I'm average height. So I'm not a short person, but I'm not tall either. So, if you're shorter than me, then you're definitely considered short because you're less than 5'10".
Yeah.
So but yeah, so he never really kind of gave me that. And because we didn't hang out, I think if we hung out a lot more, it would be different. But you know, he kind of came in, if someone was like bothering me, like he would kind of swoop down and be like, yeah, you're not about to mess with my bro or anything like that. But I never asked him to kind of like beat up or be my, you know,
Protector.
bodyguard, if, you know, yeah, protector or anything like that. It's just that it was, oh, you're not gonna mess with my brother. So I always knew that he was tough.
Okay.
But I never used him as my model. Now, once I did get my dad back into my life regularly, before he passed, you know, this is going on. By this time, I'm in my teenage years, early teens. And so he would describe me, and he used the word meek. He saw that I was a meek guy because I was quiet and I didn't really like bother anyone. And I didn't really take it as an insult or anything. I was just like, okay, cool. Because, you know, I will cloud up and rain on someone if I have to. You know,
Or walk
I'm not,
away.
no, you're not finna, what's that?
Or walk away.
Oh, yeah. Or
Or
walk away.
log off.
But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not the type of person that I've never ran from a fight. If you try to hit me, I am going to try to hit you back. So that's definitely, but I'm not also going to be the person that starts it. Like, as long as you don't hit me, we cool. But the second your skin hits my skin, we got problems.
Okay. You say you ain't never scared.
I'm not never scared. I'm not never scared because I'm not going to just let someone just beat my ass for free. And I'm not going to run away either. Like, if it's up, it's up.
Right.
You know, but I just, yeah, if I feel like if I had any type of beacon on how to be a man, it would have probably been my grandfather, because he was in the house and a farmer and all of that. So I felt like that would have been my North Star for being manly. And I would also say my youngest uncle, because he was the cool uncle. He had the cool car and all that good stuff. So those were the people that I was like, oh, I want to be like those guys.
Having those role
And
models.
no shade to my brother. It's just that they felt, I'm sorry, what was that?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no shade to my brother. It's just that those men felt more like the path that I was on than the one that my brother was on.
Okay. Did the couple of models that you had in your life teach you or tell you not to do certain things as a man, or that men don't do certain things?
I not from them, but I can remember having a conversation with my mom when I was little. Well, she would say something like, you know, boys don't kiss boys. Like, if you kiss another boy, your lips will rot off or something like that. So I would get things like that. Yeah. But no one ever told me that, you know, stop doing this, stop doing that, like, and all of that. I never really got any of that before. I can't remember. I used to say child a lot, and that was from watching the Jeffersons. And I just kind of picked that up because I watched it all the time. So I do remember being told not to say that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I catch myself now. People say it a lot now just because the types of guys that I'm around now, child comes out left and right. So I normally don't say it myself just because I've always had that in the back of my mind to not say it. I'll use it, but probably like once every 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't say I've had any of those experiences with not being told or being told not to do certain things. I just kind of observed things that I saw females do, because I grew up initially, before my mom got married, I grew up in a house of all women. So I was with my mom, my grandmother, and my great grandmother. And so all of that feminine energy and me being the only male, there were certain things that just kind of jumped onto me. One thing that I can absolutely remember, when we would go to church and I would see my mother and my grandmother and my great grandmother, if they had on like a skirt or a dress, when they sit down, I don't know if you've ever seen women do this, but they'll take their hands and wipe down their dress down the back just to kind of smooth it out before they sit down.
Right.
So I used to see them do that all the time. And I can remember on a couple of occasions, we would sit down when, the church stand up, or we're doing prayer, or we're, reading a call and response, or doing something. And whenever we sat down, I would rake the back of my pants and then sit down like everybody else. And then I was like, why am I doing this? What is this for? I was like, because my pants are not riding up. So I stopped doing it from there. But I remember when I was young, I started doing little things like that.
Interesting. But because I can picture seeing women doing that, especially at church. They smooth it down because they don't want the skirt to ride up and all that.
And they don't want wrinkles. Yeah.
They don't want wrinkles. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So let's move on to another point. So the cost of performing masculinity. So there are ways that this can hurt Black men, or even men in general, but we're talking about Black men because that's us, right?
Right. Yeah,
so, feeling like you have to, yeah, right. DEI.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, so there's this pressure that some of us have, feeling that we always have to be masculine to be attractive. And we can also suppress certain feelings and emotions because we're so busy trying to put this shell and this front up, even though that may not be who we really are. And I know there's some men that they are so attached to masculinity and so worried about looking feminine or soft in any way that they won't even be friends with men that are a certain, how shall I say, level of masculinity that's less than them, just for being scared of being guilty by association. Right. They don't want to look like they're part of that, that birds of a feather flock together type of deal. But that being said, I know that early on, I used to feel like when I would date guys that wanted them to be like masculine. And when I say masculine, because I know we start getting into that territory where people will be watching and be like, y'all not the most masculine people y'all selves, and y'all
I know it.
Squash all that. I used to want to date guys and even hang around guys that were of a certain level of masculinity too, because I also, at that time in my early dating stages, did not want to be considered gay. I didn't want to be seen. I wanted that unclockable type of guy.
Somewhat internalized homophobia.
Exactly.
Because I had it too.
Mm-hmm. And I think as we mature, we usually start loosening things as we get to know more people, as we get to learn more about ourselves. That doesn't become such a big deal for people, or at least not for me or for us. We kind of get, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, football Las Alonso type of guy that's ultra masculine, this, that, and other. He can be a little bit softer.
You love Laz Alonso. This is probably the second time that you have brought him up in this podcast. So we need to reach out to him and make that dream a reality.
Leave that straight man alone.
No, not saying that, y'all need to hook up, but at least, we need to get you a what do you call it? A cameo where, he can wish you a happy birthday or, something. Yeah.
Unnecessary. But
yeah,
I remember that used to, But yeah, so that desire for that level of masculinity used to affect how I would navigate dating. And I'm glad now that I'm no longer like confined to that version of the male aesthetic and bravado and machismo and all that stuff. Like I don't need any of all of that. Um, I'm okay with dating a softer man or hanging out with a softer man, and it's okay. And I think people need to learn that usually as they matriculate through the dating process, they become a little bit more softer to that, themselves. And you mentioned that you did have similar feelings yourself as you were dating earlier.
Yeah, it was, when I first started to engage with guys that, or just engage with guys, period, on a romantic or a sexual level, I definitely wanted to keep that hidden. I didn't want people to know that I had these feelings or that I had these urges or that I had these desires, because I've said in a previous podcast that I think I've said it in a previous podcast where people thought that I was gay all my life, but I never had those feelings towards other guys. Like I never had romantic attractions towards other guys. Not that that I'm aware of. I never was like, oh, I want to kiss this person or I'm really attracted to this person. Like I found myself attracted to energy and like the fact that it was like, oh, this is a cool person. I want to be friends with this person. But that was as far as it went. It was just I want to hang out. I want to, let's go to the movies. Let's go to the mall. I want this person to be my friend. I want to be able to call them on the phone and talk about stuff like that. So maybe that could be considered being attracted to them. I don't know, but I never was thinking in that vein when I was younger. And so when I started dating guys, I definitely was looking for guys that were a lot more masculine presenting. It could be that they were masculine or they weren't as masculine behind closed doors, but in public, I wanted that that I wanted that appearance. I wanted that to be I wanted to lead with that. And so then,
Right.
like you said, as we've gotten a little older, there are people that I have dated or people that I have been interested in that might not be as masculine as I appear to be or that I am, but that's okay. I don't like flamboyancy. I will say that. And so, but I don't like flamboyancy. Even when I dated women, I didn't like a flamboyant woman. And what I mean by that is, somebody that is, you know, child and, sucking my teeth and, and girl, like
Right.
I didn't
All the
like
mannerisms and
all
things.
the mannerisms, all of the isms. I didn't care for that. I like women who carried themselves, or I like girls who carried themselves with a level of class. And not to say that those people aren't classy, but just the presentation was a turnoff for me. So when you get guys that are the equivalent to that or are exactly like that, that's not necessarily a turn on to me. But I found myself now a little bit, being older, I'm like, if that's how they are, as long as they're a good person and,
Yeah.
I can I can deal with it a little bit more. I don't tend to lean in that direction, but I can definitely deal with it if I found somebody that was a little bit more feminine, uh, or at least somebody that's a little more in touch with their emotions. That's what I tend to date now. People who are a
Okay.
little bit more in touch with their emotions. Because I'm not emotional. Yeah, like that. I'm like, you might get a something, from me. You might see that I'm upset about something or whatever, but rarely I'm like, nah, I'm good. Nah, it's okay. I'll laugh it off before I cry or do anything else. But that's just how it appears now, or how it's been, recently.
Okay. So would you say, do you have a bunch of platonic men that you would say are more femme or more queenie or queen or anything like that? Or are most of your guy friends kind of like more masculine leaning?
I'm gonna say they're a little bit more in between,
Okay.
with the pendulum swinging more towards masculine presenting.
Okay.
So, like, they don't, like, you wouldn't necessarily just look at them and go, "Ooh, okay,
Gay.
yeah."
Right.
So, but yeah,
Mm. It's
bam,
a gay.
that's yeah,
He's a
right.
gay.
How you doing? Yeah, it wouldn't
I
be
know
one of
gay.
those.
He's gay.
Yeah,
He's
right.
my
Um,
brother is gay.
exactly. What is it? What did Miss Swan used to say? A something in the bush boy.
Little
Yeah,
monkey in the
a
bush.
monkey in the bush boy. That's it. Yeah, yeah. Hit that. One of those. But yeah, it's not that. So you wouldn't see it, like initially, but like if you had a conversation with them, like you could go, okay, now I'm seeing some of the pearls, you know,
Yeah.
slowly kind of fall out. But yeah, that just tends to be the energy that I attract. But there are some people who I'm cool with that, and I kick it with and love, that definitely are a lot more feminine.
Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I have a bigger spectrum of friends now, people that I know, and they are across the board as far as being. I would have no idea that that guy was gay until I saw him doing that thing with that other man. All the way from, oh yeah, that's definitely one of the girls right there. And it's fine because to me, I've gotten to the point where younger me was so worried about people finding out that he was gay. And current me, out me, does not care about those things because I don't see people as only what they present. There's only, oh, that's a man, or that's a girly man, or, none of that matters to me. If I think you're cool, we get along, we can hang out, we can chit chat, we can talk, we can go, out to eat, hang, whatever. We're friends. I don't care anything about that. So you can be just be yourself, be your authentic self. And I'm good because as long as you keep that and I keep my authenticity too, then we'll be good. We'll be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm
So,
definitely in our age now, our big ages now. Yeah, authenticity is
oh,
what
yes.
everything, it's what it's about at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can say I've never really ran into the messy queen stereotype. We hear about those guys all the time, but I can't say that I've ever really run into someone that was truly a malicious type.
But I don't think you attract that sort of energy though either. Like I think that energy tends to attract that sort of energy. And
Mm,
you're not the type of person who would attract that because you're not messy, like that. So if you were more messy, I think that those people would absolutely be sitting second or third row in your life, but you're not. So, the people who might have the tendency to do that, it's hidden, like it comes out, like you said earlier, if this happens, then I can
right.
switch it on or do what I need to do to stay strong.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. So, next point. So, does anyone have anything to gain or benefit from men policing other men's masculinity? Because, for example, I've read this across social media responses, Facebook, Instagram, that some bottoms will not date men who have ever been penetrated. It's kind of like they see that man as less masculine because they've had that experience of being a receptive partner. And that to me does not make sense. It does not compute. I don't think that it takes away from a man's masculinity. I actually feel like for a man to bottom, I think it's very empowering because you're actually kind of taking some control here in this situation. Um, And if you look at some of these, them boys out there in San Francisco, they
I've had a
be
few.
big, burly, hairy, muscular, have no idea, but they can
Until they open their
drop it
mouth
low and
and then
spread
you
it
know.
wide like the best of them.
Mhm. Yeah, I've absolutely seen it. And I've been like, oh, wow, nice.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah,
Skills
exactly.
and
With a
talents.
Z. Skills with a Z.
Skills
Absolutely.
and
And
talents,
Z
exactly, with a
formation.
Z. Z formation. Yeah, so what do you think about that? Do you think that these bottoms are selling themselves short? Because it could be that, hey, in college, I wanted to have this experience, or my younger dating time, I want to have this experience. I had it. I realized that bottoming was not for me. I moved on. Now I'm a full top. I know what it's like. I don't think I'll ever go back to that type of sex again. But they can't get over that hump. And what do you have any opinion on that?
That's weird to me. A lot of that stigma that people put on other people because of their own insecurities. So I think that it would just be a question of, okay, ask yourself why you really feel this way about somebody. Like if you know that somebody has bottomed before, like what's the problem with that? It's almost like when a woman is dating a guy, and if a guy has had anything close to a homosexual gay interaction, they're completely turned off. They don't want him. He's gay. No,
Not
and
bi. He's
not
gay.
bi, gay, completely gay. Or sometimes they say, bi is gay. They're like, oh, well,
Right.
I'm bi. Oh, okay, well, you gay. So, that I feel like that's part of what the problem is within dating and within not only the homosexual or the LGBTQ community, but as well as the heterosexual community as well. Like sexuality is something that can be fluid. It's
Mhm.
that's why there's so many different designations for it. And
Right.
so I think that when we start shaming each other and calling it something more than what it is, other than just experiences, I think that hurts everybody. And that's what
Right.
relegates people to the shadows. That's what makes people say, okay, I don't want to even let you know that I do this. I'm gonna keep this a secret. And that's where we get down low from, because I'm gonna be shamed. I'm gonna be looked at as less than. As far as like in dating, in what I have dated or my interactions in dating, I get more people who don't want to deal with a partner who is full one or the other.
Okay.
So, like, even you're saying that, I don't want somebody that's all this, and I don't want somebody that's all that. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what I tend to get a lot more than, oh, if you did this one time, you're this, and I don't want you. So, I'd like for us to really kind of interrogate. I understand it. I'll say it like that. I understand why people feel like I don't want somebody that's all this or all that, because then that's going to force me to be all this and all that. And I don't necessarily want that. But
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's more conversation to be had than it's just like, oh, okay, well, you're not, if you ain't verse, I'm good. I'm not dating you. I don't want to deal with you unless I have that urge, or I need my itch scratched, or I feel like a nut today.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. As almond joy
But
as nuts.
right. Yeah, I feel like, having the again, it wouldn't matter to me. But then I'm not a full top, I'm not a full bottom. Now, I feel like when a person is like, hey, every leap year, I'm going to bottom. And it's only going to be that once that every 4
February
years type of
29th.
deal. Right. People want to have the option, and I get that. I said on the podcast, I think the other week, I feel like everyone feels like a man that's want to use his tool eventually. That's just my theory. Now, I feel if a person, wants to experiment, I think that there should be boundaries and guidelines for that. There should be some type of what I want to say, conditions and leeway there for someone to want to experiment. Because like we said, if people have different kinks, they have different things that they want to experience, and we're shaming people because they had penetrative sex. We're shaming people because they want to have a prostate stimulation and they're straight. They want to be pegged by a woman. They are not attracted to men. They don't want no hairy ass man with balls and dick and all that. They want titties. They want pussy. That's what they want. But they also want to get their prostate stimulated. So they don't want no man doing it.
And that's where a man's erogenous zone is.
Yes.
It's in his asshole. Like,
yeah.
I mean, not saying that, all right, everybody, you need to go out here and get that tapped,
I'm not telling people if you don't want to have that experience.
If you don't want to have that experience, yeah, you're good. Yeah, it's fine. It is completely fine.
You can live without it.
Yeah,
you can live without it. However,
however,
yes. So I feel like when guys do that, try to restrict themselves to those types of guys, I think they're kind of like losing out. But I get it. Sometimes those guys that are, feeling like they don't want that man to leave them because they could go find another man that could penetrate them as well, then they kind of feel like, oh, now this person is my competition in this space. Kind of like how, women could see a bi man that they would be calling, oh, he gay, because now I got to compete with these men and these bitches and hoes out here. So as a man, why are you in Bath and Body Works sniffing candles? So that's my segue to this question.
Right. Yeah.
Do straight women have anything to gain by dictating what's considered masculine and what isn't? Because we always see these conversations on social media talking about what men should be doing. As a man, why are you doing this? As a man, why do you do that? And it kind of feels like these women are pigeonholing what being a man is when they're not even a man themselves. And it affects both straight men and non-straight men, because we're all looking at, like, most gay men be like, man, fuck that hoe. I'm going to Bath and Body Works. I'm getting them 3-wick candles. And that bitch ain't got shit to say.
Right.
Because that's a goddamn sale.
Yeah. But then what's crazy too is they want their man to smell good. They want their man, they want their man's house to smell good. Like that's a turn on to certain women. So like, but smell good, but like, don't wash your ass, or like, yeah, don't, like, what is that about? Like, okay, or don't have a clean place, but be
smelling
clean.
like Cheetos and old socks
and Old Spice, because you don't know, because you can't go to Bath and Body Works and use that stuff. You got to go to like CVS and
get some,
and Walgreens, and get some English leather.
Renews it.
Yeah, Febreze,
exactly,
because that might be too feminine. I think that, again, that's just it's society's attempt to put us in these boxes, and for society to have some sort of way to measure every single thing, so that if it's not this, then it's that, or if it's this, then it can't be that, instead of saying, okay, can it be this at the same time. We use the term people are not a monolith.
Oh
But as
yes,
I've
your
said
your
before,
favorite saying.
my favorite saying but it's like, but why do you want people to do monolithic shit if they're not a monolith? Like, why can you say I'm complex and I have many layers and many sides to me, but then you impose that your partner only has one side, or they only have one way that they can be? So I think that's a really good question, because I don't understand how a woman who has never lived a man's or never experienced being a man can dictate what a man does. Same way that men sit at the table and dictate what women can do with their bodies. You know?
Oh.
Okay. If you can't say amen, say ouch.
I mean, right. I mean, because my thing is this. So if you want a man, and if you're a straight woman and you want a man to do those nice things, send you the mementos and things like that, excuse me, wouldn't you want him to be in Bath and Body Works and be like, hey, my girl likes, I don't know, Japanese cherry blossom and this lavender vanilla thing.
One of my scents.
Right. So can you give me this? Like, I need to know what smells good so that I can present this to her so she knows that I'm thinking about her. So yes, you would want your man up in Bath and Body Works, smelling the scents, the candles, knowing what's the wall things called? The wallflowers.
Oh, wallflowers.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Those things instead of the little Febreze things and the Glade plug-in things, get the nice Bath and Body Works stuff, so you would want him to have some level of sensitivity about him, and confidence to know, like, hey, I can go into this Bath and Body Works because I'm confident in my masculinity. I can buy my girl this stuff. She's going to appreciate it. Hopefully I'm going to get me some, because most of us gay and straight at the end of the day, whatever our preferences is, we want to get some sex at the end of the night. So
whenever this get brick, it's time. And if I can get this lavender vanilla in here and that turn you on,
exactly.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. So I think women would have more to gain by relaxing these crazy ideas, even though what I read was basically a tweet that I know was for engagement, but a lot of people do take that to heart. So women would have a lot to gain by not concerning themselves with what would be considered masculine or not, because then they can let these men be themselves. And if you get a man that's authentic and confident in his manhood, his masculinity, and his feminine side at the same time, then you've got that Renaissance man that everybody wants. You're benefiting from this because now you're not putting that man in this box. If he's confident and he's secure in himself, all of that is a benefit to you, young lady.
But then
let
again,
that man
like,
shop.
is it that they really want a Renaissance man, or do they want like a Neanderthal or a former field hand that don't even know how to hold his mouth when he walks? Like, is that what you want? And if that's what you want, cool. I'm not knocking that. But then it's like, you can't want that and then something else, like, because that shit is gonna get old eventually. Sure, you want a roughneck, gotta get a roughneck. Like, you want that, that's cool. But then, like, what happened? Do you want a 70-year-old roughneck?
Oh no.
A 60-year-old roughneck? I'll give you 50. Like, do you want somebody still walking around sagging with Tim's on and a gun holster around with no gun in it and a tank top at 50? No, you don't.
At 50, that don't wash his booty hole and just let the water run down the crack.
Right, and that's it. Yeah, that's enough. It glazed it. That's all. I don't do that gay shit.
Yeah. Exactly. That don't be touching me back. I don't do that. Don't do that. That's gay. Itchy asshole ass.
Okay, right. I know.
All right. So how can we how can we unlearn and deprogram this performative masculinity stuff? So one thing a person can do is surround themselves with people that are okay and celebrate all expressions of masculinity. Find groups that don't care anything about that. Like I said before, express yourself. Don't feel like you have to put yourself in this confined box of what you think masculinity is. Don't allow yourself to hold your emotions and expressions. Talking to you, Mr. I'm trying to be all cool and relaxed, but in a healthy way. You know what I mean? You don't have to put your heart on your sleeve, but there has to be some type of outlet that I think men need to have where they're not bottled up. Wield those emotions in some kind of way where it doesn't explode out negatively or violently towards other people. If that means that you have to just be quiet and go into your car and yell out, great. But let that stuff out. Don't hold it in. It's not healthy.
Mm-hmm. I think too, one of the other things that people can do is, and I'm not opposed to this myself because, as you know, I'm confrontational, call it out.
Right.
If people are saying things that are shaming other people and other people's expressions, then, okay, nah, dude, that ain't even cool. I mean, and you can do it in the bro man sort of sense, that's not cool, like for real. That's not, and then stand up for that, and then or ask questions, like I do. Like a lot of times I've asked and I'm like, okay, like you keep ragging on this person, like what's wrong with them, like that you keep doing that, like is this just for fun, or is this like or is there something deeper there, because I don't want to I don't want to be around that if it's going to be like that. I was bullied, when I was younger, so I know how that feels, and I know what it can do to somebody's psyche if you keep poking and poking and prodding and poking and, all of that. That's where we get serial killers from, and people who are unaliving themselves because they don't feel accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's only so much a person can take. And I always feel like, I remember when I was a kid, one of my teachers would always say, like, if you point the finger at a person, you got three fingers pointing back at you.
I used to say all the time, I used to be like, well, no, not if I point like this. If I'm pointing like this, nobody's pointing back.
Right. That one.
That's right.
But that so what are you trying to hide or deflect, because you're trying to bring attention to these people. So that's what that can look like. So let that person be their authentic selves. Let them be who they are on the inside, because there's performative queerness as well as performative masculinity. Now, that's not today's topic, but we have to acknowledge that if we've got this performative action on one side, there has to be another side opposite of that where it's equally so. We've got the yin and the yang. So make sure that regardless if you are masculine presenting or feminine presenting, make sure that you are your true you, your authentic self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got you. Yep. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes, indeed. Because
what does RuPaul say at the end? Yeah, I was gonna say it's easier said than done, but I think too we have to do the work. We have to force ourselves to understand who we are, and understand how we function, how we move, what things make us happy, what things push our buttons, stuff like that. But yeah, RuPaul at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. What does she say?
We're all born naked.
If you can't love yourself, how the hell? No. If you can't love yourself, how the hell you can love anyone else? Something like that.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't watch the show.
Yeah. Well, you knew that, so
I knew that because that's always on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, we're all
Yes,
born naked.
indeed.
The rest is drag. And
Right.
if you can't love somebody else, how in the hell if you can't love yourself, how in the hell you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen?
Yes. Can I get an amen? Yes, indeed. So hopefully, again, we don't know. We don't think that we'll have this all solved in the course of this hour or so long podcast. But hopefully, if you watch this far, you can take this information, share it with someone, and hopefully that can put them on the right path or to a path where they can explore this topic deeper and start to do some internal soul searching for themselves. See, hey, they made some points. I do this action. Maybe this isn't who I really am on the inside. Thanks for watching. It's a wrap for this episode of Just Drawz. We hope you felt the love. We hope you laughed a little bit. And hopefully you did learn something new this episode.
Now, remember that the conversation does not stop here. Have this conversation with all of your friend circles, all of that. And also follow us individually on social media and let us know your thoughts. You can share your stories, or you can say, "What up, bro?"
Right. What's up, man? Until then,
up,
just be bold, just be beautiful, and most importantly, just be.
We'll catch y'all next time. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Now be sure to like, share, and follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Spotify at Just Drawz. That's JUSTDRAWZ. Until next time,